everyone, I am Susie Lyon with Hello Switzerland to talk to you today about education and the Swiss schooling system. Creating a new life in Switzerland comes with its own stresses, and finding the right school for your kids may be one of those things that adds stress. So it's good to go into it knowing the basics. Having an understanding of how the Swiss school system is different from what you might be used to will give you the confidence to make the right decision for your family the first time around. To give us that insight into the schooling system here in Switzerland, we will be chatting today with Kaya from Pack and Pex, who has extensive experience in helping newly arrived expats navigate the world of the Swiss schooling system and all it has to offer. So a little bit about me. I am an Australian with British-born kids, and I've lived in Switzerland for 7 years. I have spent my time here meeting and creating stories with expats from all walks of life, but especially those who've had to reinvent themselves with new languages, new careers, and new ways of living. Both of my children have been through the bilingual, international, and local systems, each with varying success. I have a little bit of experience, but not an expert like Kaya. This webinar is brought to you by Hello Switzerland, and its aim is to answer the main questions that you might have about the Swiss schooling system. So let's hear from Kaya before we get started. Hi, Kaya.
Hi, Susan. Thank you very much for that great introduction. So about myself, just very short. I'm so-called like a third culture kid, like, you may have heard about. Parents, my father from the UK, mother from Luxembourg, myself born in London, and then moved around a lot. Moved to, I lived in Luxembourg, lived in Zurich, lived in France, in the US, in Argentina, in Honduras. I've moved around, so I really understand. I understand you. I understand my clients, that arrive with children, small, older, teenage children. It's an enormous decision to take. Will I move? Will I move my children? Is there a school for my children? All of that. And so I really feel for them, and I'm able to put myself into their shoes, let's say. And my main thing is what I do a lot of listening. So I get this new file, new case, and I listen to the client, see what it is that they need, and go from there.
That's awesome, Kaya. I think we've picked the perfect person to have this chat today about the Swiss schooling system. So let's get started and let's talk about those schooling options available in Switzerland. So there are kind of three main systems that are available: the international, bilingual, and local, as well as let's touch briefly on homeschooling as well. So let's I'll turn it over to you so you can tell us a bit about those.
Okay, so I have 3 kids, and we have the 3 of them. They are doing the local school. They're going through the local school. We lived in Honduras for 3 years, where they did the private school. I would not have moved to Honduras if there would not have been the right school.
Right.
And that's the same coming here. So the public school is, I would say it is right if you have children, little children, young children. The state school is perfect. You get extra, this additional German support. Now I'm focusing, of course, right now on the northwestern Switzerland, Basel, Basel-Land, Aargau, that area. And they get extra German support. It's amazing. They take them out of class, and they may take them out of class instead of, art class. They take them out and give them intensive German.
Let's talk about the schooling options that are available in Switzerland. There are 3, possibly 4, the international, bilingual, local, and then we can touch briefly on homeschooling. So let us know what they are.
Okay, so let's start with the local system, the Swiss system. It depends very much where you live, okay? And as you may have heard about, Switzerland is very different depending which canton you live in, which municipality you live in. It just varies. Now, in the Swiss school system, it is, children, they are taught in the local language. So in the German part of Switzerland, they're taught in German. Kindergarten will be in Swiss German though. So they're Swiss German, and when they start first grade, that's when the High German starts. So in a way, it's like a foreign language.
Mm.
And in third grade, they will start with a foreign language. Here in Basel, for example, it's French. In fifth grade, it's English. In Aargau, it's exactly the other way around. So that's on the Swiss school. Then we have private school. There's a lot of options. There's the, purely English with an, foreign language as a class. It's not like bilingual. It's really as a class, like mathematics. That's what it is. Bilingual is, it is the language of the place where you are. So in Basel, it would be German plus another language, or French and German, or, it will be with German. So in the Italian part, it will be Italian with something else. And so bilingual, great option if you want a slow landing and then maybe transfer over to the public school, that's an option. Then we have those are the three main options. Homeschooling, check if you really are interested in homeschooling, check where it is allowed, where you need a license, because it's not possible all over the country. And I had, clients, my South African clients, they definitely wanted homeschooling. They said, okay, we cannot homeschool in Boston. So we had to find them a home in Aargau, because there it is allowed. So those are the different options.
So very, it's not just one or two options. If you're new to the country, you're thinking about coming here, there's actually a big amount of options that you will have to kind of sift through to see. So let's get a little bit deeper into it then, so that people can have a better idea on what is available to them. Let's do a versus private school, bilingual and international school versus the local system, the local schools. So let's talk about the facts. Like, what are the main advantages of sending your kid to the Swiss local public school system?
Okay, so a big advantage is the children will have friends in the neighborhood. My kids, that did the public school, they would say they were like 6, 7, and they would say, "Oh, Mom, Jane invited me over to play," and I would say, "Okay, see you in an hour," and out they would go and walk to Jane's house. Great. Another difference is this so-called, in the German part, is called selbstständig, which is they learn at a very early age to be independent. So they walk to kindergarten alone. Now, let me tell you, this is the one thing that whenever I say this, my God, they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, they walk," and it's great. The thing is, this comes with a lot of things I would like to mention. One is they do not actually walk on their own, because they know exactly where all their friends live. So they stop along the way, picking up their friends, and then they end up in school in this big group.
Yeah.
So that's great. Mom doesn't have to be driving them around anymore. It's another big plus point.
Yeah.
Okay. Then so yeah, integration is a big plus point when it comes to the public school. My kids, they have my oldest is 24. I have a second, my second one is 22. They still have friends, in here in the area, and their friends, they'll always have them.
Yeah.
They're not just, scattered around the world. Like, that's the way I grew up, going to private schools. My friends are scattered around the world.
Yeah.
My kids have kids in here in the neighborhood, which is great, really good. Quality. Susan, I don't know what you say about it, but the quality of the Swiss school it's incredible. It really is. It's top. Really, really, really good. It just takes some getting used to, because it's very different to, if you're coming from a different country, it's very different.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of this walking to school alone. I say it again.
that is one thing. Hello Switzerland recently put a message out on Facebook saying, what did you find different or unusual about the Swiss system? And overwhelmingly people find it quite shocking that they have to, or not have to, but it's very, very culturally acceptable to send your child to school from a very young age on their own. And for a lot of countries, that just isn't something that children do. So it is about, embracing that culture, and then that helps with the integration as well. And what you said about your children having kids in the local area, that is exactly the same for my children. The youngest one is at the local system, and all of their friends, they all gather together. There's doors being dinged at midday just after lunch so that they can all go back to school together. And that is definitely a big plus, that integration and acceptance into the cultural Swiss system is included in the local system. So let's talk about some things that you should consider if you are going to send your child to a local school, the Swiss public system. We wanted to, consider things like the age of our child. You mentioned that earlier. Maybe this is something for young children, not necessarily older children. So let's discuss some of those things that we really should think about when we're considering the local system.
Yes, if you're coming with young children, definitely. I mean, give it a try. The private school will never, it's there. It's there to have, if you need it, in 6 months and a year and two, it's still there. So consider the state school. It's it's a great option. It really, really is. Yeah.
And a lot of the local schools, even though they are Swiss schools, a lot of them are very international based, I find.
Very. I mean, I can give you the example of my son. He was in primary school and there were 22 children in his class. I think there were like kids from about 10 or 11 different countries. And this is a local Swiss school.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I think that's really, really amazing. That really is.
A lot of languages, a lot of culture all in one class. Something that people should consider, however, is that, let me give the example of the UK. In the UK, you can kind of pick and choose a school, based on a report, that says which school in your area is the best, and you could maybe move around a little to get the best school. Here, it doesn't work like that. The council, the Gemeinde, they will allocate your school, and moving from that school can be very difficult.
Yes, that is absolutely right. It's the school authorities of the place where you're living. They will decide where. They will check, are there a majority of girls in the class, more boys, where would your child fit in? The smaller they are, they make sure that the children do not have to travel too far. They do not have to cross main roads. That is what they look out for. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that might be a little bit different for some people is the time of year that it starts in certain cantons. For me, my children started a full month before their friends in the UK started. So, the date that the kids go back to school and the date that they have holidays can be different all over Switzerland.
All over. And that is actually what they do, is they do not break off to go on holidays all at the same time, so that the roads are just not packed with cars. So the holidays are broken up, so you've got, instead of having very, very long summer holidays, you have shorter summer holidays, about 6 weeks. Then again in October, 2 weeks, in December 2 weeks, in February 2 weeks, and in April 2 weeks. It's great because the children cannot really get that. It's not like in other countries where they've got very long summer holidays. They'll get tired. They'll get very tired because the next holidays are a long way away. And school starts mid-August in a lot of places, not everywhere, but mainly middle of August.
Yeah, so if you have a late August baby like I do, then it can be one of those cutoff things where they go into 1 year or the other. So that's definitely something to think about. Something I've noticed in the local school system, just passing by local schools, as well as the one that my children go to, they have really high quality things within the school. My youngest has a gym in hers. We've got a friend who's got a full-size swimming pool within their school. They've got all of these things that are integrated into it, so that the children really have a lot. Is that a normal thing that local schools kind of have in Switzerland?
Well, the swimming pool, I mean, where we live, there's a swimming pool close by. So they'll take the kids, you know, that when they're little, they'll with a bicycle, they'll go to the swimming pool. Now that's luxury. What you're telling me, that the school has a pool.
Not my kids' school, someone else's.
Okay, okay.
No, my kids put a gym in their school. That's their.
Yeah, exactly. That's common. That is very, very common. A very well equipped gym. Yes.
Yeah. So
That's true.
that's some of the things that you have to really think about if you're seriously considering the Swiss schools. So let's talk about the main advantages if you're considering an international private school in Switzerland. Who would you say that kind of schooling is for?
If you're coming to Switzerland for a year or two, you know your assignment will not be too long. It's not necessarily the best idea to put them through another school system. Put them in a private school. That's what I would say. You're arriving with a 15-year-old, same thing. 15-year-old coming from an English-speaking country, put them in a private school. If you think about it, in the Swiss school, it's not just one language that is new. You're having to deal with 3 languages. So it is, here in the Basel area, it is German. They have French and English, and all the way through until they graduate. So it's age and the assignment. And, another question is, okay, will your employer pay for the private school long term? Will it be cut off after 1 or 2 years? Something to consider, because the costs are huge. They're big.
And one thing about sending your children to the local school versus the international school that you mentioned with language, my oldest started learning English at the local system and hates it, because it's very, it's basic English from a very kind of the beginning stages, and to sit there and have to learn basic English for a native English speaker is tough, and there is no exceptions to that class. As a local kid, that child, regardless of their native language, has to learn English. So that's something to consider as well. Obviously, you're not going to have that at the international school.
No, not at all.
Okay, so we just heard the main advantages of that international/private school system. Let's talk about the advantages of a bilingual system, because they are something you have to pay for as well, but they are slightly different to an international school. So it might be more suitable for some people to go to bilingual instead of international. What are the main advantages of that education?
So bilingual, like mentioned earlier on, it's the local language plus, English plus another language. It's a great bridging option. So you're arriving with younger children, and you would like them to maybe keep the English and learn the local language, and then with the idea in about 2 years, transfer to the state school. Okay, it's an option. Very good option. The one thing to consider is check out, before you decide for a school, ask how much German they offer. There's some bilingual schools offer less, more. Make sure to ask, well, how long will it take for my child to learn the local language? It's an important question to ask, to check.
Yeah, and this is actually the option that my family chose at the very beginning when we first came to Switzerland, because we didn't know how long we would be here. So we chose a bilingual system with 50-50 German and English. And then we moved our children to the local school when we thought that they were ready. So it is an option that a lot of people take, and one definitely worth considering. So let's talk about, we have touched on it, but let's talk about what is kind of different about going to school in Switzerland. We talked about the kids going to school on their own and having that self-reliance. What about things like, something that my mum couldn't get her head around when she visited was that she came in August, so we were getting ready for the start of school, and I was manically trying to find indoor shoes, slippers for my kids, and my mum didn't understand this at all. As you know, as an Australian, this is not something we do in Australia. So this that's one thing that is something that is different. What else is there?
Mhm. What else is there? I mean, one thing I want to mention about walking to school alone, because I know this is a big topic.
Mm.
They do not just start from one day to the next. No, it takes a lot of training. So it is walking with them, then leaving them at the corner. So it's a lot of that, and also the police come in and they
Yeah.
give them training. Yeah, with the bicycles, how to ride the bicycle, all of that. So it's not just throwing them into the cold water.
Yeah, can you imagine just a bunch of 5-year-olds on the 16th of August walking to school? Only half of them would turn up. No, you're absolutely right. They do really train them, don't they? The police come in, they do a lot of road safety subjects with the police and with their classes.
Exactly. And something else that I know, I've heard it over and over again, is this: they're surprised that my clients are always surprised. Well, they just play in kindergarten.
Mm.
No, it comes with a lot of learning. It is the foundation for later on. So they start slowly, but then it takes off, and then and then the level just it gets tougher and tougher. So
Yeah.
that's a big difference. Another thing that is different with a local school is traditionally children would come home for lunch. So mom was at home, kids would come home, and then they would go back to school in the afternoon. That's something which is also very strange for
Mm.
people. Now, the Swiss have been working on this, and you're able to get, lunchtime care, or you go to a day mother, or you go to your daycare. There are options. What's important is to check, does the town, the one where I'm considering to live, does it offer these options? There are towns that don't, if you're out in the countryside, it's less.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
important to check on that.
Another thing that local schools seem to offer that people should be aware of is Wednesdays for some areas finish at 12, you go home, and that's the end of the day.
Yeah.
What's that about?
That is the day they use for their football, for their ballet, for their singing, for all these extracurricular hobbies. That is the day for that. But yes, and I don't know, did you know that in the past, years ago, children had to go to school on Saturdays?
Oh, whew, lucky they don't have to anymore.
Yeah, that's over.
So
That's over.
I do know that the bilingual schools, some of them, not all of them, but some of them follow this process as well. So it's not just a local system thing where they finish school on a Wednesday at 12. Some of the locals, some of the bilingual schools also offer that, where I guess they're trying to integrate their system into a little bit of the Swiss system as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they offer like, after school care, like they can stay on in the afternoon, they can stay on after school, they have homework clubs. So there's a lot of options, that are offered in the bilingual system.
Yeah, for sure. And it's free, the local system. That's a big difference that we should consider.
Yes, absolutely free. I mean, you don't even have, they give them everything. They give them pencils, the books, the full, everything. You don't have to pay for anything. The
Yeah.
only thing you may have to pay for is the ski trip.
Yeah.
So, when they're old enough, they go off for 5 days on a ski trip with their class.
My oldest just did that, and it cost 96 francs.
Imagine.
So yeah. So not a massive expense, really, when you think about it. So it's subsidized from the Gemeinde, I guess.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So you did mention kindergarten and primary school briefly, that play through learn through playing. It's that focus on maturing children and getting them ready for, a point in their education where they have to kind of start making decisions, but that comes quite early in Switzerland.
It comes very early. It's when they are tested So they're tested, in the last grade in primary school, and it's not only testing, the test marks, it's the marks that they've had through the last few years.
Yeah.
It is also the recommendation from the teacher. So the teacher will, check, is this child ready? Is it mature enough to go to a higher end school, or does it need more time to mature? That exists. Like my son, I mean, he went after school, he went to one level, and then he improved and matured and was able to then go to a different level. And that, I know people must be thinking, what is she talking about, all these levels? So I think that's probably going to be another question.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you talk us through those levels, because I know it can be quite detailed and confusing. So I'll just turn straight over to you and you give us an insight on those levels. I'm guessing this is when we're talking secondary school. They've gone through their primary education, they're ready for secondary school. Let's talk about those levels.
So they're tested, and based on these different, the marks that they have, the maturity they have, they are streamed. And so they finish primary school, they're all together, and then they get split into they go into different branches. So there's in this area here in Basel, it is the so-called the A and the E and the P. So the A is the easier, slower track. Okay, the children that will go to the A track, if they continue, then they will end up doing, let's say, like an apprenticeship as a gardener. Okay, that would be that track. I'll come back to that later on. Then we've got the E track. That is the one where the children will then go to a higher end apprenticeship. The third track is the P track, and that is the children will go on to university. Now, it's not fixed. I mean, they are able to, if they improve their marks, they're able to go up a track, go up to another level. There is the flexibility, which is also something relatively new. In the past, it was very much, that's where you're going to end. Not anymore. You're really able to go, it's flexible. Yeah. If you work hard.
Yeah. So you did mention there about university. Let's talk about that. I mean, in Switzerland, it's a super unique system. You don't actually have to go to university to be super super successful. Give us an example of somebody who's not gone to university but is doing all right for themselves.
Yeah. He's not anymore where he is, but he did, school. He graduated. He did an internship, at a bank, and then he went on to do higher education. He did not go university track. I'm talking about one of the last CEOs of the UBS, Mr. Ermotti. There's for example, the CEO of Shell, exactly the same. So you can do a lot. The thing is, you think, okay, a gardener, what does a gardener do? A gardener here has had schooling of 3 and 4 years.
Yeah.
They know everything about gardening, and same with an electrician, and you can do very, very, very well.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway is that the university track is not the be all and end all. There are many tracks here that in other countries might be a university degree, but here is an apprenticeship.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes. And a lot of Swiss go that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the universities, because there are actually really good quality universities in Switzerland.
The universities in Switzerland are really, really excellent. If you think, Switzerland does not have a big population. It's the numbers I can give you are the ones based on in 2016, where I was able to compare numbers. And they had back then, in the top 100 universities in the world, they had 4. Right. Now, if you compare this, for example, with the US that has 50 universities in the top 100, or the UK that has 8 in the top 100. Now, if you check, what is the population of these countries? Switzerland makes it in first place with the amount of excellent universities at the top 100.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And what about the cost to go to university? We know in the US, people go into debt to go to probably these top universities. What about in Switzerland? Are people in debt to go to uni?
Not at all. It costs, the only thing that you have to pay is, it depends which university you're thinking about, but it is under 1,000 Swiss francs a semester.
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty amazing. If you're thinking of one of the universities, one of the higher end universities, this is the technical one in Zurich, it's number 8 in the world. You just have to pay about 900 francs per semester.
Yeah, not a bad life. So we've covered everything. We've covered, what schooling options are available, where you would go when you're in secondary school, which strand you might take, and then how you might end up at university, or you might do an apprenticeship. But I want to talk about something that, does affect a lot of people coming to Switzerland, people who might have children with special needs. Hello Switzerland did ask a question on Facebook about this. And there was really a lot of heartfelt response. Some people found that Switzerland doesn't do a great job with special education, and others really felt like their child was really cared for and got an excellent education. So let's just talk about that briefly. Let us know what you know about, Swiss education for people with special needs.
Then again, this varies enormously depending where you're living in the country. Okay, I can give you the information about this area. They really try to mainstream and integrate the children. Okay, so a child with special needs will go into the regular class and will have a full-time teacher with them. Just for example, with autism now, I just had the case, and they will be going into the regular class and they will have a full-time person working with that child. So the child will never be alone, but they'll be in the regular class.
So they have that opportunity to, integrate, make friends, and still get the quality education that is available. Obviously, this is going to be different. If you send your child to the international or bilingual school, every school is going to have their own policies.
Yes, and check it beforehand. Talk to them and say, listen, this is the case. Best to be very open. Let them know, because there are certain schools they just cannot, if you need much more help, you're maybe better off in a different school.
Yeah. So it's good to go
and
in.
Get a diagnosis.
Yeah. Okay. And what about gifted children? Because that is something that came up within that question of what, education is available for people with special needs. That also covers kids who are really bright and maybe ahead of the rest of their class. What happens with those kids?
It's actually not very different to the children with special needs. Very similar what options there are, just different how they handle it. It's always good, like I just mentioned, make sure to have a diagnosis so that the authorities can work with something and know what to do. If a child is highly gifted, they may put them up a class. It could be that they're highly gifted in certain subjects, and then they will put them up in that, for that subject, put them with a higher grade. So there are options. Or of course, you can, think of private school, that there are, and there's something in certain places that you can, if you have a need for private school, sometimes the authorities will pay for it.
Oh, wow.
It's not something that they like to, advertise. Yes, but it does. So you could check on that if there is a need and you say, no, my child is not, cannot get the help they need here. They need something private. There is something to check on.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've pretty much covered everything, but I want you to tell me about a statistic that you sent to me that I think is definitely worth other people knowing about. Switzerland actually has one of the lowest youth unemployment rates in the entire world. Isn't that right?
That it's really quite impressive, and this is where the whole school system comes in. Children that are just, there's not every child is made for university. There's
Mm.
some that just, they want to learn, do school and working. So the unemployment for Switzerland is 8.6%. This is numbers that I got from 2020. Now, if you compare this to the UK, for example, they are 13.5% youth
Yeah,
unemployment,
it's a big
or the
difference.
US 14.9, and Canada 20.3.
Ooh.
So Switzerland at 8.6, it's really good.
Yeah, oh, I didn't
They're
realize.
doing something right with their school system.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, I believe that.
So when you're in the Swiss system, that is both the international bilingual as well as the local system. There's a lot of advantages, a lot of, really positive things like extra languages that, you might not be getting in other countries. So kids leave school with various languages under their belt. They've got a lot of the teachers these days in the local system, they speak a lot of languages themselves. So for me personally, I know that my child's teacher, her English she's not hugely comfortable talking English, but she does know English, and so she will talk English with me. So there's all of these small kind of advantages, as well as that unemployment rate that you mentioned.
And just to also remember, if your teacher doesn't speak your language, you can ask for a translator to be with you for the meetings, the school meetings. Okay,
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. Yeah.
One last thing that I noticed was quite interesting, I guess, that is available at the local schools is something called Joker Days.
Yes. So the Joker Days, that's something that every child has the right to sign up for these Joker Days. So if you want to start your holidays earlier, you want to, maybe take a longer weekend, they can fill out this form and get these Joker Days. So get a day off, and that's very okay. It's not many of them. It's about 2 days, per year. It's not much, but it's a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you are in primary school, and let's say you want to fly back home, you're from New Zealand, and it takes you so long to get there, ask early on with more than a month, say, listen, we want to go, can we extend our holidays?
Yeah.
They may, approve that. Worth asking.
Yeah, this is something that we did recently to return to Australia for a wedding, and we did have to do it through an official process, but they talked me through it. I sent in my forms and it was approved. So and that didn't include the Joker Days. They gave it as a friendly gesture to let us take our extra days. Yeah. So we're wrapping up. We've pretty much covered everything, but let's just touch super briefly on childcare, because we kind of covered that a little bit. If you think about, oh, my child comes home at school at midday, or finishes school on Wednesdays at midday, there's those options available, Tagesmutter, after school clubs. But let's talk about childcare when your child is really young and you might work and you need to find somewhere to send your kids.
Well, you've got the daycare. You can find a daycare in the area where you live. You can also find a daycare close to where you work. Those are the options. Then there is, of course, a nanny, an au pair that you could get. There's the live-in, live-out nanny. That's the two options that you can also consider. And there's also a day mother. Okay, so it's really translated as Tagesmutter in German, day mother. This is somebody, she'll have a smaller group of children. She will be more flexible than a daycare, maybe. And she goes through a lot of training, constant training, and takes care of children at different ages, which in the daycare, you'll have, they'll all be in the same age group. The day mother, there may be different ages in one group.
Yeah, and then the equivalent in the UK would be a childminder.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Kaya, thank you so much for giving us that overview of the Swiss schooling system. Now, if someone's watching and they're like, do you know what, this is exactly my situation. I'm coming to Switzerland. I've got a couple of kids and I don't know where to send them, and they want to find out more information. How would they get in contact with someone like yourself so that they can, get that personalized information that would suit their family?
To get the tailor what your needs are. Yeah, they can check it on Pack Impex. I mean, they go on Google, Pack Impex. They'll get the information there. It will definitely pop up.
Yeah, and then they can also contact you, the Pack and Pex company, and
Yeah.
they will be given someone like yourself to help them.
Exactly. And in the region where they're planning on moving, because it may not be, the German part, it could be the Italian part, it could be the French part. And then we've got people, that will be able to support there.
Yeah, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Kaya. You've been such a, a help, and I've even learned, something new today about the Swiss schooling system, and I've had my kids in it for a few years. So there you go. There's always something new to learn. So thank you so much. And we hope that everybody listening and watching can find the right school for their children.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Susan.
You're welcome.